I'm gonna. Good morning and welcome to Dualitea. I'm your host Akasha, and I am here with a very special guest, Ariel.
Yay! Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for everything. We're gonna go there instantly.
I know.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited. I feel like very proud, to be in this situation just because we started in my therapist's office. So,
Literally.
like, that's amazing. This is so cool.
I every time I drive past the office, I get glimpses of us pulling out of the little buggy, with the top down,
Yeah, convertible. And also we had this huge table that, by the way, I left there and I have lost forever.
Oh,
But it's okay. But we had a table. We were set up to my old Mac computer, just trying to have headphones that were not official headphones, and trying to get over the stage fright for 5 hours of the 6-hour process was the is this how talking works?
is this how we formulate words with our mouth, even if no one sees us?
Yeah, we were just that's cool. That's it was not fun. It was okay. It was great. But I remember how we were babies, and so it feels really cool because I don't think, you're a baby anymore. I'm not a baby anymore. I don't know. I like seeing the development of it. And it makes me also happy because I was I know this should be good. I know this could be a thing. So it's very validating.
You did. You said from the beginning, when you decided that you didn't want to continue on with it, you're yo, you're going to do so good with this. You should still do this, and don't let this discourage you. And I'm what the fuck do you mean? I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't know how to do any of this,
No, I felt good about that. Just because I think a lot of the times, and this is something I'm learning about myself, is that I'm more of a collaborator in terms of coming in and out of things. And that's something I've had to learn because I'm so respectful of commitment that it makes me a little sad to know that about myself, of I'm not a long-term person. But I do feel anything that I'm a part of, it has a bigger purpose beyond me. So that was one of the first instances I really trusted that. And I was really grateful that you also trusted yourself in that, just because it's I don't want to leave something and then be this should be great, just to have you also be nah, this, I never want to continue. I didn't feel that way.
There's definitely a lot of different different versions of what happened, so many different growth periods. And it's so interesting how sometimes you don't realize how far you've gotten in things when you have when you're living it, the same way they say even with my kitten, for example, my mother has seen him the other day and was oh my God, he got so big. I'm did he? I know he's growing, but I'm is he so big? You seen him last week, and that's the same thing with so many things, and it's until you I've given myself acknowledgement of certain things and developments in this podcast for sure, and I've noticed them, but it hit different walking in this room with you, where you're the reason this podcast exists, you literally was yo, I'm about to birth this thing, you want to be the other parent, and I was if maybe, I guess, and then it just kind of went from there, and turned into such a beautiful collaboration. So walking in here, I got all of the flashbacks of all of the stages of starting out with in the therapy office, and you, and even if it was still so legit.
No,
though.
it was that was a big deal to have that space.
That was so cool.
Because I don't think at that point either of us had access to a space that was outside of our homes that felt we could just have the freedom to talk. And no one's gonna come in the room and be oh, you're spending too much time in there. Are you gonna, that just how families work. So it was such a nice validating experience, I think, for both of us. And also in that time in my life, my therapist, who is amazing, that was just so supportive. She was so supportive of everything that I wanted to do. And she was like, listen, I believe in you, whether you want to be a therapist or you want to do a podcast, like, you have this space. And she gave it to me, not even to do a podcast. She gave me access to the space, so I had space to grow, which was just a beautiful thing, and I'm very grateful for it. But like, that was a great time. We were just like,
That's
we
so
were like,
cool.
we're so cool.
We're
so cool.
Because we are, and
Yeah.
it's just like, it was like that, like you said, it was a safe space, you know, that we both didn't have at the time. Like, the only, like, okay, this is my space where I can be myself is like anytime I was in my car or like in nature, but
Yeah.
even in nature sometimes, because humans exist,
Yeah.
it's questionable, which
Yeah.
we've learned. Oh my
Oh,
god!
yeah.
Oh my god! I just got a flashback of that. Yo. Oh my god, that's a whole other conversation.
It's also funny because my brain went from what happened for me earlier that evening and then was like, oh wait, that's the same day.
Oh my god!
Oh, okay.
That
I'm
was
gonna
so
drink something.
crazy. Oh my god.
That was a Scorpio full moon.
That was like, what?
I remember because I came all cool and I leaned against Senna.
Oh
in
my god, that
jumpsuit.
was like, yo, and I felt you there, and I'm dumping the ceremony water in the middle of the street, and I'm like, we're both just mad cool doing our individual thing. I turn around, you're like, I see you in your shadow. It's like, it reminded me of like, Who Framed Roger Rabbit energy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just like leans on the wall with like the shadow. But yeah, that was an interesting day. That's a whole other conversation. But you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
just be careful out here, folks.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah, protect yourself.
for real.
Yeah, in many ways.
In all, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, yeah. But you know, going there and like having that time and like also you teaching like the structure of things. Like you're like, yo, this is the day that we need to make 2 days a week. One day being the day that we brainstorm, the other day being the day that we record. And, you know, for me, it's like that has implemented in my mind, and I've gone through different versions of what that looks like throughout the time that the podcast has continued. And it wasn't until like it was really my own podcast that it's been the most consistent.
Yeah.
That like I in my own head, like, because prior to that it was still, you know, as you know too, when you're working with anybody, you know, like even us trying to get on the same page and finding the same day that works and stuff, it's like it's a lot than when you're doing it on your own, and or when you just set, because even if you do have something with somebody, but if you just set the day, it's so important, you know, where, and then you obviously tentative if like certain things come up, but like not always changing. And making that, okay, Wednesday, 10:30, I know I'm here, you know, and that has been not only a structure that has helped the podcast, but it just my routine and in my life in general.
Hey.
Yeah, so thank you.
I'm glad. Thank you. I'm glad about that though too, because I feel like, I don't know, like, first of all, we all know like what you choose to put as your structure implements and affects everything, right? But also, I do feel like there's an energy to come into before that structure even gets to form completely, of like, you know, deciding like, are you the leader here? Is this yours? And when you have that ability to finally claim something and be like, this is my space, I think everything starts flowing easier. Because even in collaborations, you're still allowed to claim your own space. And I think a lot of the times we're so confused on that, because we're like, if I'm claiming this as mine, then I'm selfish and I'm not sharing and I'm not being collaborative. But it's like, all good communities have roles.
Yep.
And like, if you're not aware of those roles and everybody's trying to be everything, that's when there's chaos.
Yeah.
So I think that that's like kind of key to it, is just kind of being like, this is who I am. Anybody who meets me in this space, that's your role. Yep. And everybody, I don't know, everybody's kind of happy about that unless they're trying to usurp your role. And then that's why you're here. Yep. Why? That's not how we go here.
No. It's like, because then we shouldn't be collaborating if that's the energy.
Yeah, you shouldn't
you're
collaborate
building
with
on.
anybody.
And no, that's so important with like literally every type of relationship in life, you know, like family, friends, like partnerships, whatever it is, like romantic, like to just know which role you fit into and accepting that and amplifying, because it's like naturally if you when you know who you are and you know what you're good at, and you can focus, and you could be good at many things, but you know what you're good at for this particular relationship, you realize that when you are taking on a partnership and or any kind of, relationship with anybody, it's because you're finding balance in something. It's because you're collaborating with something, because you need some other balances, or it just works for whatever project you're working on. So if you're like, oh, okay, I want to work with this on you, and then you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to do everything, and so are you, it's like you said, that's why it's chaos, because then it's like nobody actually has, it's like scheduling people at work and then not giving them any tasks to do, and it's just like work and do it. It's like there's always going to be something that feels like it's not getting done because it wasn't delegated.
Well, and also, like, I think at least healthy roles, right? I think that opens up more of a frame for communication, because if I'm thinking that I'm doing everything, then I have so much in front of me that I don't even know what questions to ask. So at least if I know, like, when we're sitting here, like, you are host, I am guest, I'm like, oh, how does this work? I'm not like, I'm assuming that this podcast goes however I want it to go. Like, that's not my mind frame, and it's not my space. So those questions are already out of the picture, and I feel like I just feel more centered knowing what I'm here to do, and also being appreciated for whatever role you're here to do. Like, that's kind of like slept on, is to be like, that's a good role. This is a good role. There's no bad roles.
There's no bad roles. There's no better roles. There's just roles. They're both equally needed. Without the other one would cease to exist. So so there's no like power dynamic, and it takes a certain amount of, I feel like, within people, within ourselves, like how we embody that worthiness and appreciation for others, and balance that really paints the picture to how you treat others in that same respect. It's like you notice a lot of different interactions with a lot of different people could be the more power hungry, or like trying to get to the top dog eat dog kind of energy is usually coming from someone that doesn't feel good about themselves, or that doesn't feel like enough, or whatever that case is. And it's like, and that might not be, that person might have not had the capacity to either sit with it or have chosen not to, and in those, that's where you see, like, exactly what you were saying before, those relationships or interpersonal relationships or work related things that someone's trying to take your role, or that paradigm, because it's like, oh, okay, well, if I take this person's role, then I feel like I'm better than this person. And it's a lot of, like, internal psychological emotional things.
Well, when you don't know yourself, you don't know anything. It's like, it's weird, because now that we're even sitting and talking about it, it's kind of like, how many times in personal relationships have I tried to play a role that, like, wasn't my role? Because the more you know yourself, right, it's not that you're not allowed to have multiple roles in multiple situations, but if you're entering into any type of collaboration or relationship and you're assuming the role that you think you're supposed to assume, that is also, like, stealing, like, the potential of that relationship away from yourself, right? Because I'm like, I so often move in the way of, like, I'm going to be nurturing and caring to you. And it's kind of like, I just want to be wherever I am. Like, I don't really want to always dote on people. And yet that was the foot that I moved with. I see the resonance face.
There's so much that I'm like, I didn't think that this conversation was going in this, I didn't have an expectation of where it was going, but where it's hitting, I certainly didn't anticipate in this moment. And now I'm just like, it's so funny because recently in my different therapy and therapies that I pursue in different modalities, I have been unpacking that. Something that's been constantly a thing that's been coming up has been, why are you assigning yourself a role that isn't necessarily needed? For you, it's not good for you, but you feel like you've had this role assigned to you. Really talking about, like, my relationship with the world and like how I feel like I need to protect everybody, and then how that goes into every relationship, whether work or romantic or for myself, and like all these different things. I need to protect this protector, and then in the protector is very that nurturing, like, oh, well, oh, it's okay. Like, I got you. I know you're going through stuff right now. Like, I got you, and then it's like, do I got me? Like,
Yeah. Do I got
do
me?
I got me? Because, like,
On
am
a
I
shirt.
losing myself? Yeah. Like,
Do I got me?
for real.
I'm just gonna walk around with the shirt.
We literally, that needs to be printed. That needs to be
I'll
printed.
make it.
Yeah, well, like, one of us needs to figure it out. My mom just got a Cricut, so like, all the possibilities.
Listen, we can both make "Do I got me" shirts and just go outside and be like, "Do I?
Do I?
Do I got me?"
Just so it's a constant reminder. Oh my God, my mom. That funny. The other day, I was talking to her, and I'm like, I need to get something like. Prince, I forgot exactly. I was talking about. I'm working on a project with to create this shirt to raise money for Colombia right now with everything that's going on there, and I was talking about it with my mom. I was like, yeah, I'm like, oh, I need to get printed out. And she's like, oh, Angela, my sister, like she has a Cricut, and then she like stared into the abyss and like had this existential crisis. She's like, I have a Cricut. And I was like, what just happened, Ma? And she's like, oh, I just bought one. That's why I completely forgot. And then she's like, it was on sale and I completely forgot. It was like, I know it's probably not translating the same as it was in person.
Yeah, but that moment of like, wait a second.
You're like, but wait, there's more. Like 2 more hours
You're
of
like,
the knife commercial.
Okay. And it's also funny because like, I'm assuming it's some type of printing thing.
Oh, yes,
but I also am like, y'all got insects? Like, that's fine.
It like prints out the things that can get ironed onto the shirts, or like, how cool. People like put things on cups, like where it's just cut out, like it's not paper or anything. It's like just like vinyl, essentially. So it'll carve anything out. Yeah, so it's like,
it's like,
we have access to that. Literally could put out anything. My mom's like,
that's a resource.
I don't even know necessarily why my mom got it, but she was like,
she doesn't know why she got it.
Exactly. She's like, I'm sure she has some projects in mind, but she's like, it was on sale intensely. I'm like, I get that. I'm working on that in general.
That intensity was meant because it stuck with you and was like, use me.
Yeah. I'm like,
use
cool.
the Cricut.
I was like, well, now we have reasons, Mom. We have plenty of them.
There we go. There we go, Mother.
Shout out to my mom for being my mom. I love you. Thank you for giving birth to me and being amazing. Yeah. But back to what we were talking about, like, yeah. Big on that.
No,
like,
even what you were saying, like, just the one, back to the do I got me, right? Like, of course you can be all of those things. You are all of those things. But it's just kind of like, when you move, what's the mentality that you move with? And if if you instinctually want to step with your left foot first, right? But you're then like, oh, but I need to step with my right foot today. Like, if that's not for you, that switch in your natural being, almost like, why are we doing it? Like, there are times that it's needed, but how often are we really questioning, like, why are we doing that thing?
What is the heightened reason? Like the extreme or the amplified version of like, why is it out of balance? But it's just like so much of one thing.
Well, why am I also already censoring myself? I haven't even left the house and I'm telling myself to move on a different foot. Like that's weird. I today was like, we talk to ourselves, which is like very fun. But I told you the mom's popping out today. It's very fun. But I to myself was like, wow, it feels great to not just be the mom friend like today. Like, I can be mom humor, I can do whatever I want, but I was like, I'm not worried about having masks for anybody. I'm not worried about having an extra water bottle. I have my hand sanitizer. If someone needs it, that's fine, but I didn't bring it for anybody else. And I was like, wow, how freeing is it for me to be like, I could just bring a water bottle for myself. That's so nice. I get 10 pounds of water bottles usually. Why? No one's thirsty. Not yet. I could just buy them water. Like, it's great to be that person. It feels very validating. But I didn't want to do that today, and I didn't have to do that today. And that was, like, perfectly fine. Even if somebody did need water, I just have to be okay with being like, they can
get it for themselves too.
Exactly.
And also like and knowing that sometimes being that person, like, although can be very like coming from a really nice heart space, and it shows you like that loving, nurturing part of ourselves that we tune into. But I know I'll speak for myself in particular. Like it could also be enabling, and then hinder people from being able to do what they need to do for themselves when you're like too nurturing or too coddling. You know, I was this week I was called in a very turbulent situation. I was called an offering ass bitch because I offer things too much. I would like to wear that with a little badge because I think it's kind of funny. I'm like, out of all the insults I was called that day, like defacing of character and offering ass bitch, I'm like, I'll keep that one. I feel like that's gonna be my bio. Yeah, like, oh wow, I care too much. Like, jeez, and and I was just like, wow, you know, I truly, especially coming out of a few different situations recently, in life, work wise and relationship wise, and just like exiting these two transitional places, I'm like, yo, like I really like don't need to do all that. Yeah. Like I don't need to do all that. Like I see it more with the work stuff more with other people where it's like, oh, I'm not going to take my break because I'm going to do it. It's like, nobody told you to not take your break. Like now, like you just drain. Like you're just like, you're not even stopping doing what you're doing. And like nobody told you to stay late. And then nobody even appreciates it because nobody asked you to do it. Yeah. Right. And then that applies to in like any kind of dynamic or relationship that you're interacting with another person. If someone didn't ask, just because you are intuitive enough or emotionally receptive enough to either accurately know what someone else's needs are or inaccurately think you know what someone else's needs are and fulfill them either way, doesn't mean that's what they actually need. Yeah. You know, they might need to not have that need be met so that they can go figure it out themselves. Yeah. And that applies with like everything we're talking about and all these different dimensions of that is like when you're playing an amplified role or archetype, then it's like you don't have the chance to be everything that you are because you're so many archetypes and so many different versions of things that when you're just playing the mother role, you forget to be the maiden and the crone and all these other.
That's like the over identifying that we do. Like that's like, because, you know, I feel like every year I go through a new thing where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm this. And I always come to the same conclusion, which was like, yeah, you are. But also like you are the other things, which is great.
I'm going to clear my throat. It's like I'm completely healthy, everyone.
Let me clear my throat.
You know, I'm drinking iced tea with oat milk in it, you know, just to clarify in these good times. Iced tea. This one is
I like oat milk. It's my biased milk.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't want to just like be like, over-identification of roles, and you're just like clearing your throat in the corner.
Oh, no, I didn't want to do I'm good. I just like, you know when you feel it and you're just like.
Yeah, you're like, something needs to be done. I must go.
Yeah. I just want to, I would normally do it. It's just like microphone, another human, you know, sensitive times.
No, it makes complete sense. I appreciate that. But it's just like, how can I explain this? Like using other people to confine yourself in a role. And it becomes a habit. Like it's not even at that point, you're not meaning to just fall into step with assuming what people want or assuming what's wanted of you, but you're doing it. And I do think that like we just don't really question it enough of like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And it's so silly because people are like, of course I'm asking myself. I'm like, are you asking yourself though in the moments that you're supposed to be asking that question? Because we definitely aren't. You know, we're like avoiding it all the time because we're like, I'm filling my little voids over here, which, the void's a whole nother thing. That's a different conversation. But using people to set the boundaries for yourself, for you to repeat that over and over again, and then you feel trapped and confined and no one else is around confining you.
I think it's really important, like when you're saying like when, you know, that we're not doing enough, but also like to like in those moments, to when we do ask like why am I doing what I'm doing or why am I doing what I'm doing, anytime that your answer is doing this for someone else, also ask yourself, what am I getting out of it? But why am I doing it for me? And that's because you can ask yourself, why am I doing it? I'll be like, oh, I'm doing it because this person's going through. That's not going to you. That's not going deep enough. That's like, not to say not deep enough, but that's not going in the direction that's like another evasive way to like, because, you know, it everything we do, we get something out of, whether that's positive or negative. So which one are you getting? Are you getting a positive reinforcement out of it or a negative one? And or is it negative and it feels like it's positive because of trauma, or what's going on? And the only way you'll know is if you ask, what am I getting out of this, rather than being like, all right, well, what am I, you know, getting out of this, and then just stays on the thought of other people.
Yeah, no, for sure. You don't want to. So this is like it's not even a weird thing I've been doing lately, but I find it cute because it makes me laugh every time. But it's like, as someone who's very prone to anxiety, and especially being outside of myself and being like, what is everybody thinking of me? Or what am I thinking of myself? Why am I thinking these things? When I get into those states, I don't even ask this question with the intention of answering it. I just ask the question with the intention of coming back. And I say like, why am I over there? Like, literally, because if you're anxious, you're thinking about something in a completely different location, whether it's time, space, or like within your body. And I just lovingly, literally, am like, what you doing over there?
Exactly. Get your ass back home.
Exactly. And for me, it works every time because I ask myself with that voice. Like, I'm not like, oh, why are you over there? I'm just like, what? No, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, no, come back. So that's really been helping me a lot lately because I've been trying to be my body.
Thank you for sharing that. No, I love that. Like, I'm very anxiety prone as well.
I think it's like cute with yourself. You're like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Why are you over there? It's like a little puppy or a kitten.
I was literally thinking of the dog. I was like,
what do you? Why are you in the trash? That's literally like Kaiba, like my kitten. I'm like, why are you in the trash can?
Exactly.
I fed you 2 minutes ago. Why are you in this trash can right now?
Yes.
Like, trying to,
because you're not gonna yell at like a little kitten. You're trying to like just be like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you're like, yo, like, what are you doing? Like, I'm not trying to yell at you. I don't want you to not feel hurt. Now you're out here meowing OD loud. You know what I'm saying? We're not trying to reinstill trauma. Like, you're already like overeating. You're already picking up on my traumas. Like, can we stop the generational trauma now? Like, I'm so sorry. Like, you're 3 months old. We're working on it. I don't want to
bring this into my cat family. I get it.
Compassion.
It's interesting though, because like, I know, well, what year was this, like when we first spoke about it, but I think one of the episodes we did originally, we talked about the why and asking the why again and again and again. And it's like, even now, I found that like the why can be a double-edged sword of sorts, especially for people who are prone to depression and anxiety and like things that your mind feels like the enemy even when it's not. So like bringing that lightheartedness into my like, what is it, CBT, my cognitive behavioral therapy, like has helped me enforce it better, because even though I can figure out the why, it's kind of like, when do I need to sit with that? Like, I need to learn how to have discernment for like, is this the time for the why?
How long do I have to sit here?
Exactly.
If I like, it's giving yourself boundaries with that, and it's also putting the light into the shadow and like having the balance with that, where it's like, all right, well, I can ask myself why, but I'm going to give myself 5 minutes or I'm going to give myself 10 minutes rather than I'm going to drag myself for the rest of this week because I understand why I did what I did, and I don't have the capacity and or the means to fix it in 5 seconds that I know why.
Yeah, what do you do when you know such a deep thing and you can't integrate it yet, because you can't integrate things without living it.
Yeah.
So like now I'm definitely at this point where I just kind of like, as deep as we've gone, I'm trying to live a little bit here.
Yes.
So that's great for me. I'm so grateful for all of the time that I have gone into those depths, but now I kind of just want to live simply and see if I can apply all of that knowledge, because if I've spent all that time in the depths, then I deserve equal times in the light, right? Like, You shouldn't just live down here.
Yeah.
Nothing is meant to consume you. So I was in the habit of always looking for answers, of always trying to understand myself, of always trying to, like harness my intuition and connect with that. And then I realized I'm like, yeah, I can harness my intuition, but like, am I living in alignment with trusting it? Am I letting it do its thing? Or am I being like, yeah, I know that, but like, why? Like I was
but like why? Yo, for real. Oh my God. Like everything you just said, I resonate with so deeply. Like all I've been talking about recently, and especially like since 2020, really, like especially like mid 2020. I said this time last year was when I was like, yo, I want to just like be in between these extremes, like where I can just be a human and with a spirit, not just in my spirit body dissociating from my human or in my human dissociating from my spirit. Like, can I just, Mac, No,
I get it.
but and then like also in that middle ground of like, yo, I don't want to, because I feel like because I was constantly diving to the depths and like losing oxygen, that after a certain point I was like, I don't even want to like go into the ocean because I'm just gonna keep drowning, and now I'm like phobic of it, so I just want to stay on land, and it's like but then I still do it,
and then that's even like a self metaphor, right? Like, because it's like there was this point where I had done all of this work, right, which was important work and I needed to do. I don't like regret any of my personal path because I've actually had a very blessed path, a very blessed life. I've had a lot of privileges, but I've also had a lot of depth of emotion that anyone who knows me is kind of like if I am expressing my feelings and someone isn't prepared to hold that space, even the smallest feeling from me can be deemed as very intense because I do just have that energy. So there was a point where I was doing so much work with myself and holding that space for myself that then I started becoming afraid of myself. I was like, oh, myself can consume me. And when I got to that point where I was like, now I'm afraid of even being consumed by myself, which was what I was afraid of every interaction ever, and which is why I had social anxiety. I was like, I don't have any boundaries. I was like, oh, it's finally time to have that boundary with myself and be like, there's never any risk to me, in my personal experience, of actually being consumed by yourself because you are within you, and we have to learn how to trust ourselves enough to know that we have our own backs. But it's just like there's all that fear there. We're all so afraid of being in our own bodies, of feeling our own feelings, of letting that take the space it needs to, because society is so shaming of the space emotions need. Nobody knows how to really hold witness to feelings because nobody knows how to hold witness to their own feelings, right? So when I came to that space where I was like, oh, I'm terrified of consuming myself, that was when I had to just sit in my body. And this is where I'm at now. And I had to really like sob it out. I was like, oh, there are generations and generations of me and my family and people who I love who are all afraid to feel themselves, who are all afraid that it is not allowed to be yourself at every single moment, that if I'm feeling this heaviness of feelings, it'll hurt me. It could do so much damage to my life. And that was where I was at. And I'll tell you later what day I was at because it's pretty significant. But I did. I sobbed in front of my altar and I was like, I got to heal this because we're all terrified of being in ourselves. And I was like, I don't want to be scared of that. I'm not actually scared of me. It's just a habit of running away. And like, if I'm noticing something, I'm not going to just sit there and do nothing about it.
It's like, I mean, there's layers, but before I get into how I feel in the moment, I want to add this. It's like when we're focusing so much on our experience, say like disassociating from our emotions, and I mean our human, not emotions, our bodies, right, and are in tune with our emotions and our mental and our spiritual, and like really focusing on that, going into the depths, diving into the depths. It's like safer, because it's like, oh, okay, I'm me here. Like I feel core me here. But now when you introduce the physical, it's like this is everyone's. This is like my generational like I'm dead ass crying on my podcast because of how much it like hit. It's like that's crazy because I've never had it explained, or like it's something I've felt very deeply, but I've never had the capacity to express. And it's like saying that, especially like going where I'm about to go. Next week in ceremony, it shows like why like so many people disassociate from their bodies, and it might be the opposite for other people. Some people might feel comfortable in their body, and then when they tune into their spirit, they get whiff of their ancestral trauma. It's like everyone has a different formula, and it's like in how you explained it is exactly how I feel also in my life. So it's like the generations of people that came before us that didn't have the capacity to and was afraid to be themselves. And when you don't actually feel like that about yourself, you're like, why the fuck does my body feel like that? Why, when I'm being myself, I get anxiety, or I'll get nauseous, or I have these physical reactions. And then we wonder why we disassociate from our body, because we're like, yo, it doesn't even feel like me. Because it's so many generations before us, and it is us, because that's a part of us. We can't escape that. That is a part. The escape can only be temporary, and sometimes needed in order to get to that space where you can actually like, integrate. But it's like going back into it's more than I could ever put to words. That what you expressed it and the way you expressed it was exactly what I needed to hear, and I'm sure a lot of other people too. So thank you.
Good, because also, like, it's okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was one of the heaviest things for me to really sit with recently, was that. And I was like, even we were meant to do this right last week, but we totally weren't meant to do it last week, because I was also I was kind of almost ready to be vulnerable with this, because it's a very vulnerable thing for, I think, anybody who's really realizing how much they've like run away from themselves, right? But now I feel better in knowing it's okay to feel my feelings. And like, I feel like there's a certain permission I was able to come to give myself enough space to feel, and not be the first person in my family to allow themselves, but be one of the first people in my family who is aware that I'm allowing myself, who is now sitting with the fact of like, I know it is okay to feel however I feel, to not be ashamed, even when I do feel ashamed moving from this point, even when I do feel out of my body moving from this point. You can't go back from knowing that it's okay to be you. You can like falter and stumble and not want to feel your feelings, but there's so much power in just the knowing of like, you can be the first person who has given themselves permission and held themselves in your family. Like, that is so powerful. What's that expression? Like, you heal like 7 generations to come, and 7 generations behind you. And that's just how I felt with that. I was like, I don't want this to be something that continues on in my lineage. I don't want anyone who like comes, whether it's just like I'm an ancestor, as an aunt, I don't know if I'll have kids, but like anyone who comes in contact with my spirit who's related to me, I don't want them to ever be like, I'm not allowed to feel the feelings that are in this body. They're so dangerous, and I have no space or support to hold that. I don't think that should be something that's continued. That is not, like, I'm canceling it. If I have one mission in my lineage, I'm like, that's not something that's continuing with my line. So I just want to encourage everybody to like also not continue it in their line if it feels right for them, because I do think the world would just be better if we were able to have more space to feel, to be in the body. Yeah. We are human. Yeah. We came here to have this experience, in my opinion. So why are we always so ashamed of the experience that we came to have? It makes me sad how much I've really ran away from myself, but like that's something I'm learning how to hold compassion for. So it's still very new. Yeah.
Well, it's like, just like we were saying, like before, we needed to run away from or walk away or separate from a part of ourselves in order to come back and fully accept all of ourselves to the depth and degree. Because if you don't compartmentalize certain things, then you don't see it for all it is, and it's just a whole bunch, like, which going back to the roles, if you're not okay, well, this is a part, all right, well, my physical is where my vessel is holding all of the ancestral trauma. So now that I'm aware of that, I can work with it rather than being like, I don't have time or space for this. I'm trying to find out who I am. Okay, now I know who I am and I know what I'm here to do. Now I can apply all of these different moving parts and kind of put them together and get them like going, and in alignment with each other, and just, to focus in on what they're even moving. Yeah. Out of that, like the clogs are together. It's like, is it a clock? What is it? Like, what are what we? Mechanism is it? Is it running into? And it's like, not that has to be dived deep into. More just knowing that it's the microcosm, the macrocosm.
Yeah, and also like wherever we at on the journey, right? Like so cliche, but it's okay. Wherever, that rhymes. Wherever you are on the journey, like we even speak about, like, I feel like personally, I went through the path I was supposed to go through. The pains are not like my fave. It's not the highlights of my life. Yeah. But in hindsight, I don't want to spend time in the present shaming myself for where I had been. So the more comfortable I get not shaming myself in the present, the more comfortable I can get with healing that past. And like, for me, the body is such a vessel of the present that I think there's so much healing that can be done by just acknowledging, like, we're here. Like, even for moments of time, like how I had mentioned, I'm like, why am I even over there? That's very much so a callback to my body. I'm like, my mind went somewhere, but like, I'm still here. Like, why did I start drifting? Do I want to drift? It's okay to drift, but like, is that where I need to be right now? Yeah. So I'm trying to be in the present, trying not to be too complicated, but it's okay if you're complicated, because I had to be complicated to get here. So
to simplify.
Yeah. I love simple now.
It's like, the headphones, when they jumped up, like, then they get like that, you realize they like that. It's like, oh, they're like that because they were in my pocket or however they were, and then to unjumble them, it's just like that freedom.
That's also a good technique when you have tangled thoughts, is to detangle necklaces and headphones.
I just have a lot of memories of us detangled necklaces.
Yeah.
Like I sitting at the not like oh, we're gonna untangle our mind, but like it's like maybe subconsciously we are, but it's like, oh, okay, like either of us had like necklaces. I just remember sitting
I feel
at
like
the table.
At least one time at Zen.
Oh, you know what it was? There was so many of the. I remember what it was. Okay, this is why I came into my head. I'm thinking like multiple, but it was multiple necklaces in one occasion. Unless it was, I don't know.
No, I think you're right. It was multiple necklaces in one occasion.
It was at Zen. Yeah. Someone had tangled like
the hanging ones.
All of them, I think they were like from a show or something or wherever it came from, and it was like all of the necklaces and. Everyone was passing around this, like, it was the most interlocked, intense. It took days. Like, I finally got it, and it took days, though.
Yeah. I think that's a good process to me. And I've also always loved detangling.
I do, too. I'm like, I'm good at it. Yeah. So that's why I like it. Like, I'm just not for, like, whatever reason, detangling anything. Like, I don't have to look at my headphones to detangle. I just be like... Yeah. And then
yeah, but the first time I even realized that it went hand in hand with my thought process was like, I was in my room and like I had a bunch of necklaces, which you like. I wear very few necklaces. I have like 2 sets of 3, like either my silver or my gold. You're like, hey, but I don't know what I was freaking out over, but I was just like, detangle this necklace and think about your thoughts. And see, I have been intense, but it brought me such clarity. Like once it came undone, I was like, me too. So it went.
it's like, I was just saying, there's different. I was just saying it. Sunday, I cleaned my house. Like, when I say clean my house, I mean clean the way I've never cleaned this apartment I live in to this extent, in this degree and caliber. Like, it was from, like, sweep, 2 different brushes, 2 different brooms, dry Swiffer, wet Swiffer, mop, and mopping, well, dust before all of that, naturally.
Yeah.
And then mopping.
I don't know how to clean.
Mopping, like, Create's entire baño. like, I was sitting there, I'm like, La Bomba, okay. Oils, okay. La Cascarilla, all right. Agua Florida, like, throwing all of the things, like, Fabulosa, like, throwing all of the things in there, like, and they just prayed over it. I think it's so important when you, like, really clean your house and, like, mop, like, that you, like, especially when you need to do a deep clean. Like, it's like, my entire living situation just changed. So it's like, and I needed to transition from that and completely feng shuied everything. I'm like, my bedroom's in this room now. It's not in that room. Like, this room's my rec room. Like, puts up a pole in the middle of the room. Like, and whatever the case is.
That's
but
good.
my point of all of that is, like, I wrote a quote the other day. I think I put it on Facebook. And it was like, the integration, everything that you are looking for and or running from is in, like, the task that you haven't done, in the dust on the ceiling fan, in the dirty mop water, in the dishes. It's like, that's such integration periods and such, like, where you can go in. It's like the actual thought process of going in. Okay, I need to detangle this headphones.
Yeah.
Like, once you get past that, once you're cleaning, it's like only getting smooth sailing, because you're just like, oh, okay, well, this is how this happened, and that's okay, and that's how this happened, and that's okay, and like, and and that's like a big thing that I feel like even it's like, cleaning is so spiritual, like, and so it's everything. It's physical, emotionally, mentally, spiritual. It's everything. It's clearing, and, like, you can light sage or smudge or whatever sacreds all day. You can light incense all day, but if you're not cleaning, like, actually cleaning your space, it's only gonna do so much. It could give you a momentary relief, and I'm speaking from experience. Like, it could give you a momentary relief, but, like, once it starts to get thick again, and you're not getting to the root of the problem, it's like you get a car wash, but if you really need to get an oil change, like, there's nothing's gonna stop you from needing to get that oil change.
You're not gonna be able to drive.
Exactly. Like, it's only a matter of time before, like, something else goes wrong. So, and then you have to completely look at the whole car and find the diagnostic, and then that's usually when we go to the doctor and we have to find out things that are wrong. So it's like, before it gets to that point, when you see your emergency light or, like, or your check engine light come on, pay attention. When you feel that, like, all right, something's off, like, I'm not just gonna burn sage about it, like, or like, something's off, like, what's going on? Where can I safely unpack this? And usually, like, I find with myself that it's as I'm doing something, because when I'm actually just sitting there trying to be still, there was this post one time, I think Sam had posted it. Shout out to Sam Zuru. Shout out to you, other fellow Leo. We love you. She had posted, this therapist had posted, it's not always safe for people to just, like, traditionally meditate, where it's like, yo, I resonate with that OD.
Yeah.
Like, people will be like, what, you like host meditations and stuff. It's like, but in any meditation I've ever hosted, like, I don't really host meditation. I host ceremonies and meditations in it. And it's usually a quick, brief period, because I don't do long, brief periods of meditations in necessary groups. And if I do, it's moving. Like, I have not been able to, for long periods of time, be able to be comfortable with just being still. It's almost more traumatizing. So even if I'm sitting still, my body starts moving. Even when I am still and have been still, I realize that my body is like almost like a pendulum. And so it's like,
I'm like, I'm meditating.
yeah, but the thing is, and once I stopped having shame around that and how I was so supposed to meditate and doing, I realized that, like, yo, that's just my flow. Like, everyone doesn't have to be a monk. Like, reverence to the monks, but everyone doesn't have to have this, like, one size does not fit all.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's also misconstrued. Like, because isn't the point, at least as far as I know it, so I could be corrected, I'm open to that, just coming back to yourself is meditating, coming back to yourself enough to have the space to connect to whatever is meant to connect to you. And to me, so much of connection is just intuition, because, like, I've had to learn how to, like we've mentioned, I've had to learn how to simplify, so to be less specific and, like, I need to connect to my guides and they need to talk to me in a specific way and this needs to be done. It's kind of like, well, if I trust my intuition, their message is going to come through. Like, it's not up to me to be like, I need to schedule this appointment.
I need you to flicker the lights if you're hearing when they're, like, typing on a keyboard.
Yeah,
Like,
we hear the whole time we sang you a bird and you were like, bird, I gotta go meditate.
Like, yeah, hold on, bird. Let me just see what your actual meaning is before I can know.
Exactly.
You know, it's like when you just, like, of course it could bring more depth and clarity. Of course, when you approach people or places or things or information that have a little bit have specialized in something, you can still learn more. It doesn't hinder that, of course, but take it as it comes. You know, if you feel like that bird was there for you, it was there for you, regardless of if you know what kind of bird it is, you know, or if you know what kind of bird it is, like, trust that you think it's that kind of bird, because even if it isn't that bird, then you are meant to maybe look up that bird, and that bird was meant to trigger that thought. So however it comes, rather than being like, this isn't right, it's like, it is right. It's always right.
Also, you can never fail when you connect to yourself, because that whole thing of, like, I posted about this, maybe, I don't know, either I posted about it or I thought about it really deeply and I thought I typed it out. But I wrote a poem about it. That's what it is.
Okay.
I wrote a poem about this. So it was about the fact that I don't regret being that thirsty and that hungry for knowledge. But when it comes to the time that you're supposed to start really trusting yourself and your intuition, it's not, like you said, it's not that you're not open to the knowledge anymore. It's just that you know when you're supposed to go deep, and you know when you're supposed to be still, and you know when you're supposed to move. And that's kind of the space that I'm just trying to be in at this point, is not covering the bases to be just in case. Like, I need to know this information just in case.
And it's so and it's so, like, it's so interesting how people that like, I feel like a big reason why, because I also feel very similar, and a big reason why I feel that way is because so many people, there's a post that's like, there's so many people out here trying to tell bees how to make honey when they're, like, not a bee, you know, or whatever it says. I don't remember exactly. But it said something a little bit more, like,
I liked how you said it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You said, I'm doing the thing. But yeah, and it's like, yeah, that has, like, you know, like, are you sure that it was that? Like, and it's because of their own, maybe it's because of their own lack of trust within themselves that they might be projecting onto you. Either way, doesn't matter. You know, I'm learning to stop hyper analyzing people. Like, that it's not my role.
Yeah, it's like,
that it's not my role. I don't need to understand everyone around me in order to be in a space, you know, and exist safely in it. I can just be aware of myself and exist safely in it because I'm listening to myself. The only time I'm actually putting myself in jeopardy is when I'm severing that clear communication to self.
And for me, the overstimulation of needing to know everything, I was never connected to myself. Not never. Let me not say never. I was connected to myself at
just
points,
maybe not in the degree of where you're at now.
Not when I needed to be. I was very willingly disconnecting when I needed to be connected, and connecting when I had absolutely no reason. Like, I was already there, and I was like, "Could I connect a little more, just in case? Like, do you plug into the wall deeper?"
Hey, like, mic check. Like, are you on? I don't have a performance or anything.
Yeah.
I don't even need to use the microphone. But does it work?
Yeah. Just in case. Tap, tap.
It's like, oh, okay, I have the podcast. Everything's unplugged now. Like, no one can hear me.
It's Sunday. It's not even Wednesday. And you're like, but I needed to make sure. I just had this inkling that I was supposed to be here. And it's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. All the time. Which is it's so funny now to be like, wow, you really, like, you needed to know that, huh? Like, you really needed to.
I know exactly what you say. Oh, you really to know so bad. And it's like, that's something that's so funny too, is like, because when you think so deeply into everything, then you're like, oh, okay, well, the signs. And it's like, yes. But also, we don't need us not to, or however, to gaslight ourselves into reminding, I'll speak for myself, affirming connections and synchronicities with signs and lessons to be aware of, and because my past traumas would be like I'm getting all over the place. What I'm trying to say is, just because someone hits you up at 444,
oh God,
or just because someone, has almost the same name as you, or the same birthday as you, or their mom has the same birthday as your mom, or whatever it is, does not mean that you need to accept any behavior from anyone or anything or any place that does not resonate with you or feel good and benefit you and your soul and your process, or anything that makes you feel smaller. You don't need to tolerate it. And it's like, it doesn't matter when the fuck you text me, or what the fuck is going on, or what our numerology compatibility is. If I don't want to work with you, if I don't want to be in a relationship with you, if I don't want to be a friend with you, or whatever the case is, I don't need to be. And I don't need to find an excuse in a sign that's validating my trauma, and the butterflies in my stomach are really just the resonance of turbulence from being younger and having whatever traumas happen around me, and affirming that. Like, what if the signs are affirming that, and I'm just looking at it with rose-colored glasses? And that's been something that has been, a cycle that has been coming up for a while now, to the point that even in understanding that cycle, I've gaslit myself in the cycle.
Do I understand the cycle? Maybe not.
Maybe not. Okay. I remember in the moment where I was like, yo, I don't even need your birth chart. And I don't even need it. And it was powerful for me, because I'm always like, yo, what time are you born?
Especially fictional characters.
Yo, dead ass. No, for real.
See my chat at 4 in the morning.
I really wholeheartedly resonate and get that, and I feel like that's the only people that I do that with now.
That's the only people it's appropriate with.
Oh my God, and it's so good. That's the thing too, is allowing yourself to be able to do that with something, because it's still a part of yourself. Oh, I like to dig deep. Why, instead of digging deep into this living, breathing person that can get tricky, messy, in whatever way possible, why don't I, if my curiosity, I can apply it to a fictional character or something that has innocence in it, because it's an innocent part of ourselves that's trying to be expressed, but can get mixed up and can be dangerous when applied to living, breathing humans that aren't ourselves.
Yeah, well, again, who is it for? What is it for? Because even when you were talking about cleaning, I'm like, that's so powerful because you did it for yourself. But when we're trying to clean the house for someone to come over, it's not as powerful. We're like, oh, this needs to be appropriate energy to
Throws it
facilitate
in the
someone
closet.
else. Exactly.
Only aesthetic.
Exactly. But
here's
like
all the things in there.
No, that's really bad though. It's really bad. Everything goes under the bed. Everything's hidden away. Doesn't that feel like what you're doing to yourself?
Yo.
Oh my god.
Yo. I remember, I think it was last year. I was in the process of like moving, not moving. I was in so many in-betweens last year. And I remember someone said to me, like, you know, your stuff is everywhere. Like, your stuff is everywhere. Someone in my family said it. And I forgot, like, why I said it. And I was just like, well, you know what? Oh, I do remember exactly what it is. I'm not even going to call you out. I love you so much. But I was like, yo, your stuff is always in the living room. Like, your stuff is always here, like, where it's always out. And I'm like, well, here's the difference. I have my stuff out in the open because I want to take inventory of what it is. You hide your things under the bed, in the closets, in the drawers, and it seems like your stuff isn't here, but it's everywhere and it takes up so much room and no one's taking care of it, and it's just accumulating more and more and more because you don't even know what you have. And I was just like, whew. After I said that, I was like, yo, I think I just solved hoarding.
Yeah, that's very where I'm at right now. I've been consciously going through every drawer because I just started getting anxious. I was like, I don't want anything. Like, not that I can't have things in my drawers, but I was like, I want to know what's in my drawers. Like, why do I have things in my drawers that like I don't know about, and it's for other people? And you know how? Okay, I'm not gonna speak for every Hispanic household because I can't. But like, there's like a drawer of wires in my house, and a drawer of plastic bags, and a drawer of menus, right? So like. But why do I have the drawers?
I have one. It's called a junk drawer for me, and it has all of those.
We
things.
have that, but we also have the individual junk drawers for the menus, for the wires in the bags.
At least it's like semi-organized, though.
They are not organized. There's
it's
like
organized
seven Miyabis, and we like love Miyabi. It's just, but also like, when did I become the person who has to hold that for everybody? You know, like I'm literally like, I have earrings from like when my parents first met. I have like, I want to say at least 100 pairs of earrings, and like I'm like, oh, I want to do something with this, and they're like, but we gotta keep it. And I'm like, but why is it in my room then? Why do I have it? You know, like I'm like, this don't make any sense. So I got into that space where I was like, I need to know what's in every location, and it did start to make me feel better because I was now allowing myself to be like, this is my space. If I don't like it, I am going to throw it out.
Change it.
Exactly.
And you know where it is and where it's
Exactly.
located. So when something's off, like you're like, it's like the Princess and the Pea. You're like, nah, I don't care if I'm sleeping on 13 mattresses. Listen, there's something here that doesn't belong.
And isn't that how it looks to other people though too? They're like, you're really demanding. You got 32 mattresses. I'm like, this is uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's like, but whose pee is this? Because it sure as hell is not
I
mine.
didn't put that there.
Why is it there? What's the intention of that pee?
You just mad I can feel it because I'm sensitive?
You're just mad I could feel it because I'm sensitive. You're just mad because I'm going to notice something that nobody else has ever noticed before and has gone unchecked forever.
This is so funny. In college, I had to do, like, this is so stupid, minimalistic book cover designs. So we had to, like, it was a graphic design thing that I was not good at. But I did the Princess and the Pea.
From adrenaline.
I get it. I did the Princess and Pea, though. It was pretty good. I had to learn how to make little arches in graphic design, which I've completely forgotten since then. But I did like a little green circle on a little pink book cover, and the book cover looked like a mattress.
Oh, that's so cool.
I was like, and my teacher was like, I was like, this is pretty dang good. And
I think I just did the thing.
You're gonna grade me like you're a teacher or something.
I think I won at graphic designing now.
Honestly, until I like left school, I always thought in graphic design, I was like, these people know nothing. I was like, they were too complicated for me. I was like, it don't gotta be that hard. This looks cute. And that was it. And they would always slightly get me in trouble because it's like, are you really meeting the goals of the assignment? But I was like, but this looks good. So don't tell me to not be this minimalistic because I like black, white, and then I'll throw in red if I want. Come for me.
Yeah, it's
Don't
like
do it.
it's okay to be simplistic. It's okay to be the most. It's okay to be wherever you're at. Like,
Yeah.
That's just.
Well, now that I know, I'm so happy about it, to be free and just like, to do whatever I want. Like, that's the real thing for me, is that I was always looking for permission in all of those signs. And even now we'll talk about it more. Sorry, everybody. But that's my vulnerable boundary. Even now, that just certain tools I work with, and I'm realizing that, like, it's not that they don't support me or facilitate me. It's just that now I've associated them with being the gateway to my permission, to my intuition. So I've kind of had to start stepping back from things that really define my space, which also, once you define yourself by something, you kind of know that time might be a little up and you need to reestablish that boundary. But, like, so if I see the 444, I'm like, it's permission to live. It's permission to go be free. But I'm like, why in everything that I encounter am I looking for something that's just saying, yes, you're allowed to be? Like, and I just want to stop looking for that, because as fun as it is to talk about, it's not fun to constantly feel like you don't have permission to be yourself.
To do things. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, I feel that.
Small.
Oh, feel that. Feel that deeply. It's like, yeah. I didn't look at it in that way, and that's certainly what it is. Like, that's like, oh, okay, confirmation. Confirmation to be me. What am I confirming? Confirmation, like, it's cool to do tools, and, like, like, I'm grateful for cards and for different things because of that. That has helped me got to that capacity. But it's like, these are, and we've talked about this, like, it's not needed anymore, really. Like, sometimes I need to just, like, have it yelled in my face.
Yeah. And when you permit that and you want that, that's fine. But, like, the constant living and thinking you're not connected unless you're doing these things.
Not when it's survival.
Exactly.
Not when it's like, I can't function until I can't make a decision until I look at the cards. No, I can make a decision, and then I can pull a card to see if that's what's, like, affirming what I'm confirming, or if I'm, like, evading something.
Yeah. And then if you get to the point, at least for me, like, where, right, the cards, in my opinion, for my school of thought, because I don't do a lot of predictive reading, but they're always just confirmation to me. They aren't going to ever say anything you don't know. And if they really are blindsiding you with information, to me, it's a lot of a denial thing, like something we're not ready to face, which is completely fine. I have no problem with someone being like, you're wrong. I'm like, don't bother me, not my life. Yeah. But, like, when I had the association so frequently, I would go to the cards, and the cards weren't even anymore telling me the confirmation. They were saying, you need to let go. They were like, why are you overthinking? Why are you doing this? When they start communicating with me in those ways of being like, you're moving too fast, you're thinking too much, and I'm asking a question that I already answered for myself like 17 times, that's how I know I've done the same thing that I've done in most of my relationships throughout my life, which is, like, trying to, I don't want to say fill the void, because the void can't be filled, but, like, trying to make people and make cards and make situations in my life into what I revolve around, into the thing that allows me to voice myself. And, like, until I'm in a space where I'm allowed to have a relationship with myself, where I don't need something to facilitate my voice, I don't think that those relationships are going to be as healthy as they can be to any tool, to any person, to any device, because I'm always looking for something to give me the go to be the person I'm meant to be,
It's like, when you said that, I had this visualization of, like, the sun, like, and, like, like, naturally, like, and the sun's like, yo, what do I revolve around? Like, things revolve around me,
That's
and then it's
meme.
also, and then, like, and that's, like, that part of you, like, that's, like, that can exist and that should exist. That everyone has, not just you, everyone. And you just happen to be the Leo, and then also, like, but that's the moon in you. That part is the moon in you. So, like, the moon's like, all right, well, what am I revolving around? And it's like, you can be both. You can be both the sun and the moon. Like, doesn't have to be anything else like outside of you that is the sun to the moon. Like, okay, the sun's like, all right, well, what's revolving around me now? And then the moon's like, I revolve around you. And it's like, me to me. It's just like, I love that I support you in these ways. Like,
That helps so much, though, because that's really the relationship I'm trying to, and of course, like, I think personally, based on where I'm at, this is my truth, like, that people should try to have with themselves, because it took me such a long time to realize that also when I'm in my own energy, I actually love it. I love people. I love being in people's energy, but there always hits a point where then I'm like not being honest to myself. Like a moment that you already knew was going to come, because you're like, oh, my battery is running out, or like, oh, okay, like, you know, this doesn't need to drag me on this moment. This moment doesn't need to be forever. But I'm like, whoa, we're in this feeling. Let's go forever.
Yep.
And then I'm like, oh, I forgot how good it feels to like make myself laugh. Or like, I forgot that I don't only have good conversations with other people. I have good conversations with myself. So when I'm spending too much time in other people's energy, what I forget is to even value that relationship that I've been working to establish with myself, because I'm not going back to it. And like, that's a balance that I constantly have to find for myself, is being like, oh, no, like, I can't do this today, or like, I don't need to be around people all of the time and consume all of my space around other people. It is okay to just be like with me without an excuse of being like, I'm just here because I'm bored. Like, no, it's I'm here because I want to be. Exactly. And that's been nice, but it's usually
powerful.
happening at 2 a.m. though.
Yeah, I was looking at that. Yeah, no, I've been up the past few days like later than I have been.
Yeah.
And I haven't been doing that in a little bit, and I realized that because that's my favorite time for me, and like where I'm like me, you know, like
there's like this weird high that you're like, no one else is awake.
No one else is me. I'm me, and I'm meing right now with me. It's like, all right, so 3:00 in the morning, and you should go to sleep. You gotta wake up at something.
It feels so good.
So it's hard to come down from the high, but it's like also, you know, it's cool. It's cool to have access to that at any point, and that's something I was talking about too the other day, with myself, and then also with my elder. What I was saying, we were talking about like transitioning out of a relationship, and I was like, you know, I was like, advice was being kind of, which I warranted advice, was to like, oh, you know, I think it's time that you just like kind of sit with yourself and stay with yourself. And I was like back and forth between like, because I also feel that way, but I also was like in this like, oh, like whatever, like mood where I was just like, before I was with this person, I was with myself for a long time. Like I like had a brief week where I wasn't, but like that began and ended quickly. Like other than that, I was like with myself, and then I laughed, and because I said it just like that, and then I laughed, and then I said, or was I just protecting myself from other people? So was I actually with myself when I was choosing to be celibate and single and within myself and not giving access to me, even in friendships, not giving full access to my energy and my space, and like I was cultivating things, and yes, seemingly I was doing good. I had 3 jobs. I'm like doing seemingly societally overworked and underpaid. Like I'm doing great. What do you mean? I'm a hustler. I'm in New York.
This is fine.
Get it done in New York City. What are you talking about? That's doing what I gotta do. Like, and you know, separated myself from different things, and like also I did have like certain things I was doing that was on my spiritual tip, and I was finding my balance and my groove on my own. And I was feeling free and at peace when I was home. And I was feeling the good benefits of when you spend a certain amount of time with yourself. But was I choosing to, and it wasn't until I got into the relationship I just stepped out of where it was like, it was a cycle I needed to go back into to understand why. Like even integrating the relationship with my mother, like there was common denominators with her toxic relationship she just stepped out of, like where it was like, yo, like the generational trauma is real, even to the feeling, like even to the way it ended when she was leaving or when he was leaving, like it for the both of us, it's like the amount of like mental, emotional, and spiritual abuse and like just mistreatment that happened, especially on the last day of the breakup, like is so interesting how like generational trauma will literally look and feel almost exactly the same. And look, it was 6 months apart. Like that's so interesting, you know, and now in that integration process in which I'm still in, I've been like, yo, I'm excited to be myself. Like when I cleaned the apartment, and I was just like, and I feng shui and I changed the room, and I laid in the bed in the new room. I was like, because I couldn't lay in the bed for a second because I was like, yo, I can't, like, I don't want to be in this room. I don't want to be this dynamic. And then, like, so I was sleeping on the couch, and then I put it in the other room, and I laid on it, and I was like, I'm so excited to sleep in this bed, you know? I'm so excited to be here. I mean, naturally, the cats came up, and, like, I wasn't alone for much longer, but, like, it was just an empty room. It's just a bed.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's just, like, really freeing. Really grateful for that. And for, like, what I said back to my elder was, like, yeah, like, I'm excited to, like, actually, you know, I said back to him, I said back to myself, like, I'm excited to actually looking forward to giving myself attention rather than avoiding attention from others. It's just a different vibration, you know?
No, that's in that space, and that's good. That's growth. Yeah. We love to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? I just turned into the internet for a second. We love to see it.
I know, it happens. It happens. Like, it certainly happens. Like, I definitely am guilty of, like, just throwing a meme in a sentence. Like,
yeah. But that, I don't know, that it feels very cathartic. That's the way I would say it. But first came out, we love to see it. You know, we love to see your cathartic expression. It's very healing for the collective.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's like, you know, that's all I want to do here, you know, and in life, like, in general, like, is continue to heal myself and, you know, embody that healing and have that healing and embodiment be an inspiration for others to do that for themselves. And if I can facilitate and or share and or remind anything for anyone at any point to do so, at the same time as honoring myself and my needs as well as others, and, like, finding that balance. And you know, that's what this this podcast has turned into, is, like, that safe space, you know, which it always was. Like, it was always the intention for it. And it's like this this container and this safe space that's in someone's headphones or in their car or on their laptop or wherever they are when they're listening to it or watching it, you know, that they can tune in and tune into that conversation with us and within themselves, you know. And so it's like an extension of that safe space. It's like, I look at the podcast as like an extension also of, like, how the moon ceremony energy is. It's like, we're all here to do this for ourselves, like, including me. Yeah. Like, we're all doing it for ourselves and collectively. It's both. Yeah. And it's like, not one of us is different. Just because I'm hosting it, just because I'm hosting the podcast, or just because I'm hosting the moon ceremony, doesn't mean that you coming on here is any less important. And, like you succeeded in making me cry on the podcast. Yay! Like, if people have came close, like, where I'm like, I'm not going to cry on the podcast, and I'll catch myself. This time
don't make this into a game, because I already won. So anyway.
Yeah, please don't make it into a game. Like, I get it. I'm a Cancerian for talking tropical, but, like, I'm not trying to be crying up here every week. Like, y'all don't do it.
They just gotta chill.
You
know where I'm coming from, so you're, like, very amused.
I'm here for it. I really like it. No, I really love that energy. I'm like, there's so many things. Oh, man. And it's like, and we loop back to the beginning of the podcast when we're talking about the sun and the moon.
But we also did go back to roles, too.
Yeah. That's like, I was thinking, like, when we were talking about, like, how we could be the sun and how we could be these roles for ourselves, how, you know, we could do that. I remembered why I got the tattoos I got, like, the literal, the little, I was thinking about them yesterday, because I forget about these tattoos.
Yeah,
I have tattoos
covered. I forgot about
literally
them too.
Right where people have with the tragus piercing of a little sun and a moon. And I forget that I have that, you know? And, like, I was just thinking about when I was driving yesterday. I didn't even see them. I just thought about it. And
then I have things there.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's really cool, because I always wanted to get the sun and the moon. Yeah. You know? I wanted to get the sun and the moon always. Like, even when it was, like, the person I loved the most. Like, we wanted to get the sun and the moon, or like that was mentioned, you know, like drunkenly. And then like, and I was like, wait, do you really mean that? Because we could do that. And then I was like, wait, you know, even if that does happen, then and then deeper and deeper that I've gotten into myself is like, yo, I still want that, but for me, for me and me,
exactly,
me and me, yeah.
That feels good. I think that, I don't know, I don't think anybody can miss when they are actually truly doing what's for them, because I think that sometimes we get into this space of like, oh, you know, and I'm gonna speak entirely as a Leo, right, in this moment, just so we are very clear about where I'm coming from. But I'm not gonna say y'all, even though my soul wants to say y'all, be hating, but some of y'all really hate the fact that people can be themselves, and it is so deemed as selfish externally because it is so deemed as selfish internally. So, you know, you can't miss when you actually are doing yourself, because what we have to realize is that no one is, to me, innately selfish. We're all set to survive, but survival isn't selfish. And then we have our mind, and we've grown into humans who can have functioning minds, who can have communities and societies and have built things. Like, that mind is what makes us deem that need for survival as selfish. But when we realize that that's the base level need for humans, why is that deemed as something to like expose or shun? Like, now that we know we can just be needing to survive, and that should be allowed, and that's not selfish, then why is going beyond surviving considering selfish? Do you know what I mean? Like, why is the most primal part of us already deemed selfish, and wanting to do more than that deemed as like too much?
Super shamed, like shamed. It's
Yeah.
And then we carry that shame, and it hinders us from even wanting to survive.
Well, and it hinders us also from like seeing everybody and everything around us clearly, because we so often are like consumed by our own fear of taking up space, of being considered selfish. But what are you really wanting? Do you know what I mean? And I don't mean like you want the cars, you want the money, like that. No. What are the needs that are... Sorry. I started dancing. But like, and I've heard this so many times. I wish I could like allocate it to who I've heard it to, but I just heard a lot of people say it. But like, what is the need behind that want? Because most of the time it's just a need to survive. We don't even know what we want in order to thrive. And that's why it feels so like selfish and pervasive, because we're just giving ourselves permission to ask and be curious about ourselves. And that's something that's shunned upon, is being interested in yourself. But like, if you're not interested in yourself, anyone who's interested in you is just like making up for what you're not doing for yourself, and you get attached to that, and that's unhealthy. So I'm just saying, why is everybody so hating on Leos just because we like ourselves? That's all. That wasn't the actual point, but I'm just gonna turn.
I was with you until that point.
I know.
I'm like, is that rhetorical?
No.
I know. No. Like, to bring balance. To bring up.
I know why people hate on Leos.
Well, it's just literally, but when
I'm gonna say, but why?
when in anybody, what I truly, and I can speak for myself, also a Leo rising, people, before anybody comes at me, and even if we're talking any other Vedic, sidereal, anything, still a Leo rising, even more Leos in my chart there. It's just, I feel like anyone, not just Leos, but symbology of sun, right? As my Leo enters the chat, like, takes up more space. It's more like, it's just, where is it coming from?
Yeah, no, of course.
That's really it. So it's like when we allow ourselves to, because I feel like we're constantly faced with, and this is beyond the Leo conversation.
Yeah,
no,
it was
we're constantly faced with people that are afraid to be themselves, and then people that pretend they're being themselves so much, and they don't even know who they are, and then the people who know who they are afraid to show who they are. I think that's the spectrum.
Yeah. No,
you
for
know
sure.
what I mean? And then in between that is like the high,
Yeah.
the core that we
Yeah.
all strive to be, but sometimes we have to fake it to make it, or make it and break it, you know, and to get to that in between. And I feel like probably people that hate on the other people are people on the opposite spectrum.
Yeah, of course.
So people that are faking it to make it are looking at the people who are making it to break it, meaning breaking the cycle. Like, it are like, well, why the fuck can't you get out of bed? You're not doing anything. And it's like, I'm breaking it, sister Trevor, by asking why a million times, and you're just pretending that everything's okay because you go to the gym.
No,
or whatever the case is. Like,
because you go to the gym.
yeah, like to look good for other people and not
like
even
that
yourself.
sentence.
Like, it was just like, it's just two people speaking completely different
Yeah.
languages in their extremes, and neither are balanced.
Yeah.
So to meet in between.
No, of course. And you know, the Leo thing, listen, as someone who is that, I've also had like a lot of complex feelings in terms of my own identity around the zodiac, which is why I like to joke about it, because there was such a self-hate place around that. But I also realized it has more to do with almost like this arc of like, I'm concerned of like when I do show up authentically, of how that's going to be perceived, right? But in truth, it's more to me about like artificial sun versus the actual sun, right? Hi, Laurie. Just, I didn't know that appeared on things, so I was like, that's cute. But the plant, being you, right, is gonna either know or not know what's growing it, right? I'm more pro being out in the sun, and I want to do that for myself. But either way, those places that were spaces of slight authenticity, where I was so nervous about how I would be perceived in that moment, they still permitted growth for me, you know? So there's so much there about like, I think we all shame ourselves so much in that spectrum that you mentioned of like where you are on the authenticity spectrum. Like, we're all too fixated on looking at other people's like gardens and suns and seeing like what's growing you. I don't like what's growing you. And like, that's even what I mean of like, why y'all all hating on Leos? Because I don't even mean it in the Leo sense, but I'm like, why are you all looking at other people's suns? You know what I mean? Why are we like existing to check other people's egos? They're gonna get checked, whether or not we're like on the lookout for it. And so much of my personal struggle was revolving around me worried about like, who's going to come into my space while I'm still growing and like pull out my roots? Like, who's going to do that just because they felt like, oh, you're not being true to you in that moment? That was such a fear that I walked with all of the time, that I became that person for myself, that I started like pulling out things that weren't even weeds, or things I wouldn't consider weeds. Because, you know, some people be looking at weeds and they're just flowers to them. Like, I'm not anti a dandelion. You know,
Dandelions, medicine. Like,
exactly.
People leave them.
So it's just like, my concern is always like, why is everybody so intense about the growth process that anybody needs to go to get to themselves? And like, again, I get it, because I've been in that space, and I've been hyper fixated on like calling out things and like, you know, being like, why is that person like successful in that way when you can just smell it on them? I'm like, you're not being you, and that's stinky. But like, it also has made it so that I've never given myself the space, because I've been so worried that someone's gonna do that to me. And so that's even the thing of like, I'm questioning like, why are we always so doing that so much to others?
It's hater energy, and even whether it's meant to or not. Like, I even felt myself shifting into that not too long ago, where someone's called me a hater. I've never become a hater in my entire life, because I'm so fucking supportive. Like, it's great. Like, and I was calling something out. I was calling out appropriation, like, rightfully so. You know, and but it was my intensity about it. It wasn't just like I'm calling something out and I'm calm. It was like physically bothering me. I'm like, yo, this is wrong. Like, and I get it. I'm passionate and stuff, but it was like making me not okay. And like, that's something that needs to be checked. Like, why did I even get to that degree? And why am I so fixated on this how did we even get to this conversation? Why are you over there? Get back over here. You know, and like, and even if you did get back over there, like, it's like, I was over there and it's like almost like I was in a fight and someone's like pulling me back and I'm just like, and I was like going so off and it's like, I'm about to get arrested over there. Like, get back. Like, why are you so rowdy? You know? And it's like, just say something.
Because the truth speaks for itself.
Exactly. And it's like, for me, I know it's the protector role. Like, that's why I'm like, because if people are doing things and it's inauthentic and it's whatever, I'm just like, okay, and I just keep moving. Or like, you know, it doesn't really hold a lot of space until I feel it's hurting people. If I feel like it's hurting people or they're like manipulating people or using their status and power to cause more harm than good, it's a protector thing, and that's still enabling, because at the same token, like, someone might have to get burned in order for them to experience. And also, who am I? I'm no one's mom or God. Besides, I'm my cat's mom, but like my
cat's God. No, no, Eden is a cat god.
Eden is cat god for sure. But yeah, cat lord. Like, I feel like he's big cat lord energy. But yeah, it's like, and I realized that, and I was just like, well, why am I so fixated on that instead of just embodying what I wish to see? And that was like, because I feel like I was coming from that spectrum for a while where it was like, I teeter back and forth, where it's like, for me, like, when you talk about the roots and get like uprooted, I felt that at times that I've burrowed my roots so deep that I'm like, not even like, I wouldn't even, like, I would like laugh at, I was like waiting for people to do it, right? Rather than just like living my life, I was waiting for people to just like laugh and be like, I'm deep roots, can't do shit, you know? Like literally, I know who I am. You think you're gonna embarrass me? I fucking talk about all my shit on here. Like there's so many episodes you can go back and I literally talk about 8 miling myself, because that's where that's coming from. Like, literally, it's like probably in like at least 10 episodes.
You also told me it just in person.
Like, yeah, and so many times where I'm like, I'll say, oh, you want to talk about my past? I'll do it on my podcast live. Like, you ain't got shit, because I've had so many people do that power dynamic to me, where it's like, oh, well, you know, you host moon ceremonies, and people want to know that you used to go to keg parties, or that you graduated from Mount Loretta or whatever. So I'm like, I'll tell them. You want me to tell you?
That's what happens when you have the sun on your head. When you gotta wear the crown, people don't like it. I don't know.
And then we find our different ways, because it's like, yo, you're not gonna take what I'm building away from me. So like, okay, yeah, I dug deeper, but in that dig deeper, it's like I'm constantly reactionary. So I'm like, now I'm trying to, I'm not trying, I'm doing. I'm moving away from the space of being so reactionary, where reactionary in a toxic way. Like, I'll still be reactionary. I'll still like wear on my face like how I feel, because I actually like that about me now. Most of the time, unless it's anxiety and it's like energy I'm picking up from other people, and it makes everything really awkward, because it's like really intense and nobody understands what's going on besides me. Anyway, since I
heard all of that very clearly.
Thank you. I'm like whoever's supposed to catch up with is supposed to catch you. Whoever's
that made
not
complete coherent sense to me.
It's high anxiety things. Like, it's just, I've had that happen a lot the past few weeks recently, where I'm like, it's interesting when you experience something and you wear everything on your face, how either people receive it or how you feel they're receiving it. And like, for me, a lot of times that happens with like the most awkward situations, and it's usually with like me blushing, and like me blushing is usually like an anxiety response for me of like something energetically isn't resonating with my being. But people are so prone to societally thinking like, oh, you like somebody, or oh, you're bashful, and it's like, yo, nah, actually I literally need to go. Like, I'm like busting at my seams, don't feel comfortable here. Like, it's like my pheromones are coming off. Like my red flags, I see red flags, the trigger. It's an emotional trigger. So like, that will happen when I'm like in between a person and their married partner, or like some weird situation where I'm like, fuck, this person's gonna think that I like either one of them, you know, like, and I'm just like, the truth is, I feel like one of you guys are an energetic threat to me, and I want to be anywhere but here. But okay, bye.
I
gotta go. Yeah.
If you could just say that out loud, that'd be great.
Oh my
but
god,
it's not a. It's hard.
It's hard to be like, yo, what is on you that is so bad that it makes me feel like I'm retreating back into. Like away from.
Well, then it's also like we don't even have to ask. We just have to like be
just
like
act.
I gotta go.
I gotta go. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not. It doesn't even have to be like that complicated. It doesn't even have to be a threat if you like really are trusting yourself in that moment of just kind of being like, ooh, this is not good for me. And now I know myself and my body and what I say well enough that I should be like, oh, okay, this is not the space for me. Gotta go. Or thanks for spacing with me.
Thanks for having me practice what I preach in this moment.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Through.
Appreciate it. Don't follow me on Instagram.
Yo, that ass. And it's like the thing is when you're aware of a cycle and you choose to end it, you know, when you like the smudge, when you like the sage, you gotta like the sweet grass, you know? And in that sense, metaphorically, like, it's like when you take something away, you gotta put something. If you clean something up and you make all these empty shelves, you gotta put something there so that the same stuff doesn't come back. It's crazy the way it does that. And like the more and more you realize it, like to the degree that it is, like it's insane. Like we'll talk about why after.
I gotta have a list of how many times we'll talk about this after.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, for real. Like it's like the exact sign and problem that I just stepped away from slid into my DM, and it's just like I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, and it was so apparent too. And I was
kind
just
of
like,
luck, man.
oh my god! I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, but because I'm so aware of it, I'm just like,
no thanks.
That's mad crazy. Like, that's just get out of here.
I would love to say that though, to the person. Be like, that's mad crazy.
Yo, I've been saying things like that.
Why are you here?
I was contemplating on saying like, yo, what made you? Because I know what made that for me, but I'm wondering how conscious that person is. And I'm like, I might just ask that question and then like completely.
Oh, that's crazy,
or
but
I might
no,
not ever
bye.
say anything. I don't know. And then I might not even put the time or energy into it.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see
how you feel.
I just think it's so interesting how it's like exact, literal, two exact problems and situations that I just stepped away from. It reincarnated in another person the hour after that person was no longer my space. The hour. And I was just like,
no thanks. Personally, just because I'm like that's overwhelming. That's a bit overwhelming.
I was just like, it took me like 2 days. First, I was like, this is weird. Why is this random person I haven't spoken to in a long time reaching out to me? And then I like started unpacking. I was like, oh, well, they're both the same sign. Like, oh, they both kind of got the same issue.
What's that meme of it's from A Sunny Day in Philadelphia, where he's pointing at the thing.
Oh, Charlie.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot what name he goes by in that, but it's literally me. Like in everything, I feel like how I express, like my friend's sister, like, oh, I love her. Maya always says that to me. She's like, you dead ass, this is you, with the cigarette and all, like in the chart. You know, like.
Yeah. Anytime I'm like this person and this person, this is. I'm like, I always feel like. That's the meme.
Yo, it is. It is. For everyone. I feel like anyone who experiences any sort of like mania in expressing, that meme encompasses for all of us. Yeah. Like in that way, it's like, oh, wow, that's a physical representation of what I must look like because I can't see myself.
Yeah. I've also been learning a lot about what is and isn't mania within myself and what I've deemed as an emotion I'm not allowed to feel when it's just happiness. I just said that happy feels too happy for me. I must be going manic.
Yep.
Turns out it's not my mania.
Yeah.
Because if you're just sitting and watching anime and having a nice time and being happy, it's not mania. You're not doing anything. That's manic.
I've been feeling that with sadness, actually. Like literally the same the opposite spectrum with sadness. Like because I feel like I've been like super excited and supportive of like, oh wow, I can feel happy and not manic, and like I can identify and register that more. But like feeling sad and just like feeling sad or feeling manically sad, I'm discerning that right now.
Yeah,
like,
you're like, oh wait, I'm allowed?
I'm like, oh, I'm allowed to be sad a little bit, but like also be happy too. That's where I'm like, like that balance of both coming from the opposites, but which, you know, are you surprised?
Listen, listen,
Word.
Yeah.
So I know that we've been on here for a while, and
we're wild like that.
And you know, I want to kind of like reel it in, and in the best way. I'm really like grateful that you are here, and this has been an amazing podcast, and thank you for bringing your vision into fruition and trusting me enough to water and grow the plant in which you seeded.
Thank you.
And I can never like express, so crying twice. I can never express the, you know, the feeling and the appreciation that you trusted me with that vision and encouraged me when I didn't believe that I could do something like this, when I didn't believe that I had the capacity, the means, the experience, the worthiness to have a platform in which I'm seen and or heard. And you're like, dude, like you are duality, like just be you, like, and do that, you know, and you know, thank you, you know, and I love you, and yeah.
I'm gonna also thank you now, because how dare you? How dare you? No, I really do. I do want to say thank you for having me, but also just like an acknowledgement of really how proud I am of you. Like, yes, I did know that you could do it. Like, this is a slight flex on anyone I associate with. I only hang out with people who are literally meant to change the world, and that's just facts on facts on facts. So, you know, while I believed in that and knew that you could, I'm really proud of you for, regardless of how you felt throughout the process, letting it live enough to kind of reflect that back to you. So, you know, I think it'll just keep doing what it's meant to do, and you're always going to facilitate any space into wholeness. So I'm just very grateful that you let yourself do something just because it was supposed to be, you know. You didn't have to really have more of a reason than just wanting to. And that aligns itself how it is. So I'm very proud of that. Yes.
Me. Meeps.
Yeah.
My neeps.
My neeps.
My neeps. You. It's the support in the cryptic language of emo, like just feels.
Yeah, we had to translate it.
Yeah, it's not their business really. No, like I mean, if they get it, they get it. Yeah. They don't speak. It's okay either way.
It's okay.
You know, it's
don't right. Judge yourself.
Just being ourselves.
It's like when you left my house, and I think you said something nice to me. I was like, now I'm gonna be awkward about it because I can't handle genuine emotion. I can't just it's fun to not.
Yeah. Well, it's a process, you know. And I feel like I genuinely feel like we've gotten much better, you know. Like,
no, 1,000%.
Like so much, like even in expressing it from, you know, the spaces and that we're expressing it from, it's like it sits here. Mm-hmm. It's not here, and it's not here, which is no problem from it being in these places, but they're extremes. Yeah. So when it's from here, it's like carrying the universe with it. When it's from here, it's like carrying the earth and everything of that, you know, in that direction. And when it's from here, it's a lot like lighter and clearer, and balanced.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to breathe.
Yeah.
Why did I do that? That's so old. Dabs are so old.
No, it's good though. It's because the podcast brings up the dabs.
Oh my God, I'm in 20 whatever year.
I don't know. I feel like we were doing them. I think we were doing 2019. Like, not many people were still doing dabs. We're still doing dabs.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was really old when I did it then.
Dabs never die.
Yeah, that's true.
Not talking about weed dabs. We're talking about,
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
I was fine with doing it in 2019 because I was like, who cares? But I hadn't done it in such a long time, other than being in this space, that I was like, whoa.
There's something like that happened before where I felt like I was time looped too. I forgot I said a word that I was like, oh no, it was the Leo thing. I was like, oh, here we go. Here we are in this sun and moon thing. So but that's something that'll never leave. Maybe just like a dab.
Forever.
So to cycle it down, I just wanted to see what, if you're open to it. I know you like to read. Are you open to reading?
Like reading from the book or just reading what these cards say?
Whatever you want. Oh. So this book is called Peace of Mind. I like to read it. It's like everyday meditation for stress. So it's just like a word of like it's just one page of like a quote and then whatever it is, and usually it's like always has to do with whatever. It's like I love doing this after the fact because
read it. Yeah. Which one am I reading?
Today's the 16th, right?
Oh, okay. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Ooh, there's already a thing. Let me get there. Okay. June 16th. Nothing is more seductive and at the same time more deceitful than wealth. It is extremely troublesome to acquire, to keep, to spend, and to lose. And this is a Hindu proverb. Money is the number one cause of arguments between couples. Couples who don't fight about anything else may fight about money. Couples have lots of it and still argue about it. Money is such a volatile issue because it symbolizes different things to people. Love, power, security, dependency, freedom, control, and self-worth. Therefore, it's important that you and your partner communicate your individual views on spending and saving money. For example, are you a saver while your partner is a spender? Are you a sharer who wants to pool money, or a divider who wants all the money kept separate? After determining your individual money styles, you can then share what you don't like and what you admire about others' relationships with money. You might say, I don't like how much money you spend, but I admire how you reward yourself. I wish I could learn how to spend money on myself. By airing these negative as well as positive traits, you can ease money conflicts and foster a more relaxed attitude with your partner about future finances. Today, I'll let my partner know my views on money to facilitate understanding about why I save and spend the way I do. Wow. Has me thinking about energetic currency.
Yeah. Like everything. Like literally, it's like everything just in a different way. Mm-hmm. Put like, just instead of bashing people for the way that they are, being like, I appreciate what you're trying to do for yourself, even if I don't agree or align with, necessarily like how you're doing it. Yeah. Like it's like acknowledging what their actual goal is because everyone just wants to feel good. Yeah. Yeah. So what is their actual goal, what they're trying to achieve, and like, yeah, that's cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's
Thank,
cool
thank
book.
Thank book. I found a thrift store. I just opened up and it was at my birthday. So I was like, all right, well, guess it's my book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guess I gotta take you.
No, I was like, I don't know why I was like,
Don't you hate when a book says you have to come home and then you're like,
ma? Yeah, it's just the sound. Like it was just the sound, the energy, and the tone. I was just like, why?
You said, well, I guess I gotta. That's what that said.
Yeah, for real. That's exactly what the sound translates to be. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love it. I love sound.
So earlier I had pulled 2 cards for the collective, anybody who's listening to it now, anybody who listen, watch in the future, for us included, everybody part of it. You know, if it feels good for you, you know, to receive it, and if it resonates, if you don't feel open to it, you also, then it's not for you. You know, I prayed for whoever is open to receive it consensually and respectfully in a good way. So the 2 cards that I pulled are, one is from the surrender deck, and it says surrender to non-action. Now is the time to be still and to not act. Simply breathe and focus on your own power and let others come to you. And in the sacred relationships deck, meaning relationships to everyone, not just like partnerships, it's like all relationships, even relationships with thyself specifically, which I feel this card is talking about, is the number is 40 and the card is tenderness. The energy of tenderness activates our capacity to open our hearts and approach the world and each other with gentleness and care. And it's really just like what we need to surrender to, and what can help strengthen our relationships with ourselves and other people, you know, and that tenderness of, you know, how it sits with us, you know, and the colors that are coming up are green and blue. So it's a lot of like throat chakra and heart chakra, and like the non-action too, I feel like is coming up in the blue, and like that communication with self, to like allow yourself like, okay, I don't have to do anything. It's okay. Like that communication with self and connecting with your heart. And like, if you feel like you don't want to do anything that day, and you have this whole schedule of list of things to do, like listening to what it is that you really need to do. And or if you feel like you need to reach out to somebody, maybe just like sitting with that for a little bit and just allowing tenderness of where is that urgency coming from, and maybe sitting with that and not really judging that, but just like allowing yourself to know that there is more that's deeper than that, even if you don't go into that depth. So that's what the message was for today in the cards and in the energy. So
yeah, I just keep like, I love those cards. They were very like, it feels nice to breathe. That's how I keep feeling, how beautiful it is to be.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna dab.
You can if you want to.
No, that was me telling myself to be in the moment. So it'll get better. And soon I'll say that in my head. It's just because the microphones are here. I felt like they should know if they caught it. If they didn't, it's just for you.
Honored. An individual, a personal dab.
I'll talk to you about the dabs when we get off.
What they really mean. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show, and thank you for everyone who will listen, and, you know, signing off for today. I'm not going to be here next week, but the week after I will be on. And yeah, maybe I'll explain why I'm not here next week. Maybe I won't. We'll just have to find out. Love you guys. Have a great day, and bye. See you next time.